In this video, we will review another open source package or project in Laravel and see the structure of it. So I tried to do that with another package called accounting, and it took a really long time. It went like 40 minutes of video. So I'll try to make it shorter this time and point only the main things. So we're looking at Laravel.io, project community portal by Dries Wins, who is now an official Laravel employee number 3, I think, or number 4, I'm not sure about that. So Laravel.io, he was really a part of the community since the beginning. He created Laravel.io, he was really active on Twitter and in forums and in releases of the versions. So really kudos to him, and it's a good example, I think, to take a look at the code because it's publicly available on GitHub. So this Laravel.io portal forum, events and community. And this is the Laravel.io portal repository, and let's analyze what about the structure. So how Dries structures his project, which is not very big, but big enough to learn something from it. And it has 1400 stars, pretty popular and considered to be pretty good. And usually when I start to analyze the project, I start with routes, because routes really show the scope of the project, the size of the project, the main endpoints, controllers, and structure. So routes are not that big, 83 lines of code, and what we can learn from these routes. First thing, Dries doesn't really use route resource, which was kind of a surprise to me. Instead, he does separately edit and update, for example, edit show, and it's more explicit. Maybe it's good, it's a personal choice. And same thing with auth routes. He doesn't use auth routes by default. It's copied and paste, most of it, like password reset, like register, logout. It's almost the same as default auth routes, but probably he made some changes deep down below, so it made sense to override those URLs and to assign maybe different methods. I'm not sure about that. So these are two things, and then a few more interesting thing about like binding, for example. So if you go to controller, for example, email confirmation, email address code, this URL, and it goes to email confirmation controller confirm, which is this one. So this method. As you can see in routes, the parameter is email address and code. In the controller, it's user and code. So that route model binding, which is by default, it exists in all the resourceful controllers in Laravel, like create, store, edit, update, show, methods, all of that. They accept the parameters. But in this case, how it's all bound together. And the secret is a file called routes bindings.php. I've never seen that used before. Pretty interesting thing. So separate routes bindings file where it actually being binded. So email address is a parameter, and then it is resolved by finding the address, by finding the user by email. So this way, email address gets resolved into a user. So that is another interesting thing that I've noticed in this routes file. And final thing about routes, you don't see middleware anywhere here. Middleware or any auth, so nothing, because it was given to controllers. So in the controller, you can assign middlewares, and that's also personal preference. You can assign middlewares either in controller construct or in routes. He also uses authenticate class, which is the same as auth, and also you can assign middleware to only some methods. So in this controller, email confirmation controller send is middleware by auth, and confirm isn't. So that's another interesting way of doing that. So that's the structure of routes in Laravel.io. Let's move further to jobs. So if we go to any controller, most of the custom logic, actually, let's go to app folder and let's see what folders do we have there. and I was expecting something like services and repositories, but it wasn't there. So where does all the logic go? And the answer is jobs. If we go to jobs folder, a lot of jobs are being done there. So confirm user on the forum, delete thread, delete user. So in the controller, usual code of the controller in this project is getting the data, maybe some checking, and if the action needs to be fired, then it's dispatching the job with a parameter. Also dispatching confirm user here, dispatching send email, so all the logic is inside of the jobs. And if we enter any job, it's usually pretty simple. So this could be potentially part of a controller even, or some kind of a service, so it's kind of 2 lines of code. But the author thought that it makes sense to make everything a job and then dispatch the job whenever you need. So that's one way of doing the architecture, and it's pretty good. I'm actually quite a fan of it. So if you dig deeper into that repository, you will find that jobs is the #1 thing that it's using. Then if we go into app folder, we also see helpers. Quite a lot of helpers, model helpers here. So for pagination, then for example receive replies. Let's just take a look. Latest replies. And how does it use all the helpers? It's a trait actually, trait receive replies. And then maybe this is a trait as well. Yep, so this is a trait. And probably in Composer JSON it's auto-loaded. Let's take a look. Let's take a look if helpers are here. Yes, files, resources, helpers. Well, that's interesting. There's another layer. So if we go to resources, helpers, probably it will contain the list of those files. Resources, helpers. Oh no, it's even interesting. So that sounds to me, looks to me like WordPress file functions PHP. I'm not sure if you have any familiarity with WordPress. So that looks like just helper function. So those helpers are not automatically loaded in Composer JSON. Probably they are loaded as soon as they are needed in some controllers. Let's double check. What do we have here? We don't have helpers here auto-loaded. Okay, fine. But then I guess question is why they're called helpers. I would then move those to folder traits. Folder traits isn't present here. So helpers are usually actually trait. Then there is, I've noticed one event, reply was created, but it's actually empty. So reply was created, and let's see if there is a listener for that. So another pattern of separating the logic is events and listeners. So if there is an event, there probably should be a listener. Send new reply notification. Yes, exactly. So one event and listener. If reply was created, then we need to notify all the users. So this is the logic, events and listeners, and probably there should be event service provider where it's all registered. Let's see. Yep, exactly. In app providers, event service provider, we have a listener registered and tied to event class. So that's another thing. Also, what I've noticed is folder called rules. And rules are just for validation. And basically, class implements rules. And if you search for, actually, I'm not sure if GitHub allows the search in that repository. In this repository, yep. Oh yeah, it is. It is used actually. Update reply request. Oh, it's interesting. So the repository has rules as a separate class and class list, and then those rules are applied in the array of another rule. So this is a typical form request class, and on top of required, there is another rule added as array item. So that's also interesting syntax. And probably final thing I wanted to show here in app folder, queries. queries for searching users. Search users get, actually let's take a look again where it's actually used. So probably it should be search users get somewhere for pagination. Not really sure, that's pretty weird thing. I haven't really done anything like that, but let's see how it actually is being used. This repository, okay, so in the test, okay, in the test, and then in admin controller, it's just used as an include file almost. Search users as a static class, so static class get search, so that's for searching the user. So Dries created a separate queries class, well, few classes, search users and search threads, I think, and it uses the same logic here in a controller. I'm not sure if I would do it this way. Probably I would extend a model or maybe a repository or even a scope inside of Eloquent, something like that. But maybe it does make sense if it's more complicated search. So I guess that's it. That is a short review of Laravel.io portal code. In short, if we stick to our topic of the course, which is how to structure Laravel code, excuse me, the main thing here is jobs. So in the controller, everything is called some logic and then some validation logic, and then the job is called, and everything mostly is located in app jobs folder. Hope this review was useful, and see you in the next review and in the next lesson of this course.